Certain memories in your life are triggered by people. Certain memories in your life are triggered by places. Certain memories in your life are triggered by music, but some are triggered by food. And I can remember as a young boy going to the Greek islands with my parents on holiday and being presented this bread and chicken and salad and this kind of white sauce. Turns out it was pitta with chicken souvlaki, Mediterranean salad, smothered in tzatziki. It was absolutely fantastic, and we're going to make it for you today. And I cannot wait. So, vamos a cocinar. Let's get cooking. We're going to start off with 250 millilitres or 8.5 ounces of water. Now, water wants to be 110 degrees to 115 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 to 46 degrees centigrade. So if you can see that on the camera, we are at, we're just in 45.7. So that's really good. So in with the water. And then we want 1 teaspoon of white sugar and 2 teaspoons of active dried yeast. When we're cooking different things, we can sometimes get away with adjusting the ingredients only slightly to maybe to our taste. But when you're baking, it's really important to be exact with measurements so you get the right results. So we just combine the yeast and the sugar with a whisk. Then we're going to set this aside in a room to allow the yeast to activate. Now the ambient temperature you want for the room is between 23 and 26 degrees centigrade or 73 to 79 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to set this aside for 10 minutes. So whilst your wet ingredients is coming active, shall we call it, let's get the dry ingredients together. So we want a separate bowl, and into the separate bowl we're putting 330 grams of bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour if you want, or plain flour. And we also want to put in 1 teaspoon of salt. And we're going to just, again, using a dry whisk, just lightly whisk those ingredients together to combine them. So this has been activating for 10 minutes, and you can see on the top there how the yeast is really starting to come through and bubble up, which is good because sometimes I know maybe you don't use yeast every day and it can sit on the shelf in the cupboard or in the pantry and it has a shelf life. It might not be very good. So it's really good to do this because that tests your yeast to make sure your yeast is active before you continue with the rest of the process. Good to find out now that your yeast is not good and go and buy some more rather than get to the end of the process and find that your bread is not very good. So the last thing we need to add into the wet ingredients is 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. And that goes. So we've got our dry ingredients and our wet ingredients, so we're just going to add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. Pour it in. Then using a silicone spatula, or you could use a wooden spoon, whatever you got to hand, start to combine these together. So onto a clean work surface, we just want to tip this out. Now it's quite a wet dough. So I'm just going to wet and dampen my hands, which will stop the dough from sticking to my hand. So if you take your dough and divide it into thirds, take this third and we're just going to pick it up and then we're going to slap it over. But as you slap it over, move your hands out, okay? So again, pick this side up. And it's this slapping and folding technique that will start to activate the gluten in the bread. And when you first pick it up, it's all wet and ooh, but as you start to work it, you will notice it starts to form up, becoming drier and more manageable. So 6 or 7 of those slap and folds just to start off with. Then we're going to take a damp tea towel, I'm going to lay it over and then just leave it to rest for 10 minutes, and we'll come back to it for some more slap and folds. Okay, so that's had 10 minutes. So we're just going to put the tea towel to one side. Again with damp hands, this third in, and just work it a little bit more. Don't worry if it's sticking. Slap it down, fold, spread your hands. One more. Okay, again, cover it with a tea towel. Leave it for another 10 minutes. So this has had a further 10 minutes and you can see it's already starting to grow and expand. So we're just going to give it one more slap and fold. 4 or 5. Okay, that's good. Right. What we want now is a clean bowl. And we're going to add just a little bit of olive oil into the clean bowl. And this is purely to stop the dough from sticking to the bowl whilst it's going through its first proving. So let's get the dough in, turn it round, mix the top with the olive oil, turn it over, take our damp tea towel. And then you want an ambient temperature for the yeast to activate between 23 and 26 degrees centigrade, or 73 to 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is going to take probably an hour and a half to activate and to do its first proving, or until the dough that you've put in has doubled in size. Whilst the dough is proofing, let's get on with the tzatziki. We are going to start off with one English cucumber. I did read the other day that these are called Italian cucumbers, so I don't know who laid claim to them, but it's the long green cucumber for the avoidance of doubt. So we're going to peel it. Okay, once we've peeled it, take a knife, knock the ends off, and then we're going to take our box grater. Using the large holes, we're going to grate it. Of course, being very careful to avoid grating our fingers at the same time. How close dare I go? That's about right. So if you've ever had runny tzatziki that's not really nice and creamy, it's probably because somebody's left the water content in the cucumber. So we want to remove the water content from the cucumber. So in order to help us to do that, we're just going to add some salt. And we're going to mix that into the cucumber, and that will help to remove the moisture from the cucumber. So I'm going to let that sit for 3 or 4 minutes. Meanwhile, we'll take our jug and we will add 375 grams or 1.5 cups of a good quality Greek yogurt. And this is the key, really. There are, of course, much cheaper options out there in the stores in terms of Greek yogurt. But the cheaper you go, and also, to be honest, the lower fat option you go, you're going to lose some quality in your tzatziki. We want 2 minced garlic cloves. There we go. Make a little bit of space so you can see what we're doing. Peel the garlic, and then using our trusty mincing tool, we'll add the minced garlic into the mix. That bit. Okay, we want 2 teaspoons of fresh dill. So we're going to dice this up. Some herbs have got the flavour in the stalks, and this is one of them. You'll find coriander is another one, so it's okay to leave the stalks in. So you just want to chop this up quite finely. And then we're going to add that into the mix. We also want a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. If you're only taking juice from fresh lemons, it's always a good idea to roll the lemon just to break some of the membranes down, which will make it easier to juice when you open it up. Oh, look at that. Superb. Just to stop any pips going in, let's go through our hand. Oh, lovely. One tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Okay, so our cucumber has been steeping with the salt. So take a tea towel, light out flat, take a spoon, put our cucumber into the towel. Each corner in. Put the bowl back underneath, that's important. And then, oh my goodness, look at that, it's raining. We're going to squeeze the liquid out of the cucumber. Look at that, how much liquid's coming out of that? That's amazing. Okay, open it up, and our nice dry cucumber can now go into our mix. Excellent. So just stir it all together. Just a case of combining it. Thick, creamy and delicious. Let's give it a quick taste. Really fragrant, fresh and crisp. Absolutely delicious. Okay. Into our little serving bowl. And we'll just take a little bit of fresh dill for the top to garnish. Really simple, really effective and delicious homemade tzatziki. So next is really simple, quick Mediterranean salad. We're going to start off with cucumber, take the ends off. Personal choice whether you leave the skin on or off. Personally, I prefer to leave it on because it gives your salad a little bit more crunch. So divide that into three. I'm going to divide that into three. We have of course washed this cucumber before we prepped it. Just nice little chunks. Take a bowl for prepping the salad in. Okay, here we go. Put that to one side. Vine ripened tomatoes, little baby tomatoes, really sweet, juicy and delicious. And quarter those up into the salad. Cut them in half, hold, half again into the salad. Half a red onion finely diced. Roots there, that's the thing that holds the onion together, so we're going to go straight through the root, keeping the root furthest away from you, and of course keeping your fingers out the way without cutting through the root. Just going to the end of the knife, and as finely as we can, all the way down. Then keeping the onion together with your fingers, but keeping them of course out of the way, we're going to make an incision there and an incision there. Then just going to take our knife, finely dice. You'll get to a place where you start to feel the onion tip that way, and let it if it's going to, because we can just finish off by going all around the edges. Again, into the salad. Some salt, just to season it slightly. Some cracked black pepper. And of course, no Mediterranean salad will be complete without some extra virgin olive oil. Get that in. 5 minutes to pull that together. Something nice to present it into. We've got a ceramic bowl. And we're going to finish it off with some nice chopped fresh leaf parsley. Couldn't be simpler.
Okay, so now back to the bread. This has been proving for 2 hours in the fridge.
See how that has absolutely doubled in size. So it's looking good. Okay, so again, clean work surface. And this time we want some olive oil on the work surface. And we want to take the dough with your fingers. You can just work it out onto the work surface. Here it comes. Fantastic. And this mix will yield 6 pittas breads. So I'm going to take our pastry cutter, I'm going to divide it into half, and then divide each side into thirds. Okay. Take a baking sheet, and with some spray oil, which happens to be spray olive oil, of course, because we're in the Mediterranean, liberally coat your sheet with spray oil. Then we're going to take each one and we're going to fold the sides in to form what would best be described as a mushroom shape. Or maybe you would call it a little mozzarella ball. Once we get to that stage, put it on the surface, cup our hand, and we're just going to work it just to form the shape that we need. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Onto the baking sheet. Okay, that's the last one. A little bit of more spray oil, just really to stop it sticking. And then we're going to cover it in shrink wrap or cling film and put it in the fridge for 2 hours. Just while I do that, I wanted to explain a little bit about the fermentation process with yeast. The process actually starts when the yeast comes into contact with the water. And that's where flavours come in, because alcohols and acids developed during that process. You can control the speed of the fermentation process using temperature. So we had it in a room which was 23 degrees to 26 degrees centigrade, which obviously provided quite a quick fermentation. What we want to do now is slow the process down. So we're going to put these in the fridge for about 3 hours. And the reason we want to do that is we want those alcohols and acids to develop flavour within the pitta before we roll them out and we bake them.
Now time for the chicken.
When you're working with raw chicken, it's always good to take precautions. So we've put a plastic board on top of our wooden chopping board, which we're going to wash straight away. I've got gloves on. So we're going to start off with 675 grams or 1.5 pounds of boneless chicken thighs. And what we want to do is we want to cut those chicken thighs into shapes that are 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters in size. So out of each thigh, I think I'm going to get probably around 6 pieces. They need to go into the bowl. So that's all the chicken thighs up. There's 6 in total, but obviously it will depend on the size of the chicken. Those right. So as you can see, we're going to get rid of all our raw chicken. So gloves off, and get those straight into washing. Into the bowl, we want 3 minced garlic cloves. So just crush the garlic down, peel the garlic, and just keep crushing. Once it's done, you scrape off the back, as you can see, into the bowl. Start on the next one. The recipe also calls for 1 teaspoon of lemon zest. So take your lemon zester, and 1 teaspoon is approximately the zest of 1 lemon. We also need 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. So with the lemon you've just zested, if you work on half a lemon for a tablespoon, it won't go that far wrong. So we just juice those into there. Oh, it goes everywhere. We want a teaspoon of cracked black pepper, and 2 teaspoons of dried oregano. And finally, 80 milliliters of extra virgin olive oil. So to avoid cross-contamination of raw chicken, fresh pair of gloves on, and then all we're going to do is get our hands in to combine all those lovely flavors. Then we're going to cover it with cling film or plastic wrap, and depending on your time scales, this now goes into the fridge for anywhere between 2 and 24 hours so that the flavors can meet and combine together.
We'll light the wood-fired oven, which will take around 2 hours to get up to temperature.
So if you're going to cook your souvlaki on wooden or bamboo skewers, it's really important that you soak them in water about 30 minutes before you load the skewer and cook on them. So chicken's had a good marinade, all the flavors have infused. So onto our pre-soaked. You want to put about 5 or 6 pieces on, whatever you decide that you want as a portion. And always make sure they meet up so that they cook evenly. That's 3, 4, 5. Oh, this is going to be so good. Go. These bad boys are now ready for the grill. So we're going to use a hot plate griddle, which has been warming up now for about half an hour. So we're going to go straight on. So we push them close together. One, to make sure even heat distribution, but two, when we turn the kebabs, we don't want meat spinning on the kebab. One of the benefits of using thighs is that they're actually very forgiving, but it is very difficult to burn them.
We're looking for a floor temperature in the wood-fired oven of around 430 to 450 degrees C.
So I don't have 3 hours for all those alcohols and acids to create some delicious flavour. So quite simply, very gently, we take our pitta off, generous with the flour, and on the top, and then we just work it through. Push it out. You're looking for about a 7-inch diameter, and then very lightly with your rolling pin, starting in the middle, we want to roll out. Doing that action will probably cause the pitta to stick to your rolling pin. So I'm not putting any pressure on really. I'm just rolling it from the center, rolling it out until I roughly get to the size that I'm looking for, which is about there. Then we're going to take our peel, flour our peel, get our pitta on, make sure we've got some movement and some play. Going to the wood-fired oven. Because of the intense heat in there, it will cook very quickly. And we will make sure, because the fire's now on the right-hand side of the oven, we'll make sure we go in a second and just turn it so that we get an even cook. Oh, no, amazing. So we're going to just pop it in here because the pitta will benefit from a little bit of steam just to keep it nice and moist. Okay, so this is it. I am like a kid in a sweet shop, bringing back memories of childhood holidays. Look at those pittas, beautiful, flexible, hot. Oh, wow, delicious. Take our Souvlaki skewer. Let's take a really nice one. Look at that. That is stunning. Use the fork just to pull it through. Spread the meat out so you've got chicken in every single bite. Okay. Then we want some of this delicious salad. Glistening with olive oil, parsley. Absolutely delicious. And then, of course, the tzatziki on the top. Move the kebab up a little bit, fold it together, Bring in the paper and the foil. Wrap it over. Wrap it over. I want you to be with me when I take this first bite. You see, absolutely fantastic. Lemon, garlic, cucumber, tomato, red pepper. Of course, the chicken is succulent, and the smokiness of the bread. I am from the north of England, but of course I live here in Spain now. And in the north of England, we have a phrase which is shut the front door. This is shut the front door. Thank you for watching.